Annie Frank, born in 1929 and sadly lost in 1945, was a young Jewish girl who suffered terribly during the Holocaust. Her family had to hide from the Gestapo during World War II, living in a very cramped space. Despite these difficult circumstances, Annie wrote down her experiences and thoughts in a diary. After the war, Anne's father, Otto Frank, found her diary. He was deeply moved by the wisdom and emotions Annie had expressed, so he decided to share it with the world. Originally called Diary of a Young Girl, it was later published as Diary of Annie Frank. Anne's diary has become one of the most well-known accounts of the Holocaust. It helps us understand the human side of this tragic period in history, going beyond just numbers and statistics. Annie Frank was born on a sunny day, the 12th of June 1929, in the city of Frankfurt am Main, Germany. Her father, Otto Frank, was a German businessman. In 1933, during the tough times of the Great Depression, Adolf Hitler and the NSDAP, Nazi Party, came to power in Germany, and they started making harsh laws against Jewish people. Because of this, Otto Frank decided to take his family to the Netherlands, where he started a new business trading in pectin, an ingredient used in making jams. This move not only provided for their living but also added a bit of sweetness to their lives during those difficult times. But, when the Nazis took over Holland in 1940, life for the Jewish people became more and more difficult. Annie had to leave her regular school and join a Jewish school, as she wrote about in her diary. In 1942, things became really tough for Jewish people in Europe. Anne's sister was in danger of being taken away, so Otto Frank, her father, made a brave decision. He hid his family in a secret place behind one of his businesses in the heart of Amsterdam. This hidden spot became their safe haven. Soon, another family, the Van Pels, joined them. They were also trying to avoid being arrested. The Jewish families had some non-Jewish friends who helped them, like Miep Gies. Miep risked her own safety to bring them food and essential things they needed while they were hidden away in that small space. At the age of 13, Annie began writing a diary about her family's life in their hidden refuge. She used her diary to express her thoughts and feelings as she grew up in these difficult circumstances. During the day, they had to stay very quiet to avoid arousing any suspicion from the people living below them. Hiding Jewish people from the Gestapo was a serious crime, and it was hard to know who could be trusted to keep their secret. Anne's diary reveals the challenges of living in a cramped space with so many people. Sometimes, the atmosphere inside felt suffocating because even small annoyances could get on everyone's nerves. They couldn't go outside, so there was no way to escape from these conditions. They were eagerly following the news of the war, and by 1944, they started feeling more hopeful. They heard about the Allied forces landing in France and the liberation of Paris, which gave them a sense of optimism and relief during their difficult time in hiding. One striking feature of the diary is how she wrote about very ordinary, everyday life experiences of a young teenager, against the backdrop of the frightening war situation. For example, she developed a short-lived romance with 16-year-old Peter Van Pels, who was also hiding in the attic. With Peter, she experienced her first kiss, but also had the self-awareness to wonder whether her infatuation was genuine love or a result of the confined situation she was in. Annie wrote about all the different people and relationships within the hiding place. She was close to her father but often felt distant from her mother. Even though Annie faced many tough times, she had a natural joy for life and a positive attitude. For instance, she wrote about how she really wanted to do simple things like riding a bike, dancing, whistling a tune, and just enjoying the world like a carefree young person. She longed to feel free. But Annie was wise beyond her years. She knew that if all 8 of them in that small hiding place showed their sadness and discontent, it wouldn't help their situation. So, she emphasized the importance of staying strong together and not letting their difficulties show on their faces. Anne's words remind us that even in the toughest times, our unity and positivity can help us find the way forward to better days. Sadly, on the 4th of August 1944, as the Allied forces were closing in on the retreating German army, an anonymous person informed the German secret police about the families hiding in the annex. This led to their arrest, along with 2 people who were helping them, and they were sent on the last train to Auschwitz. Annie, against all odds, survived the selection process at Auschwitz, where most young people under 15 were sent straight to the gas chambers. Instead, she was taken to a labor camp for women. But a few months later, in November 1944, she was moved to Bergen-Belsen concentration camp, which had a terrible reputation for its harsh conditions. Life in Bergen-Belsen was extremely difficult. Prisoners were hungry, mistreated by cruel guards, and living in overcrowded and unsanitary conditions. Diseases spread quickly, and many people died. Sadly, Annie fell ill with typhoid fever and passed away just 1 or 2 months before the camp was liberated by the advancing Allied armies. Her story, like so many others from that time, is a heartbreaking reminder of the resilience of the human spirit during the darkest of times. Sadly, all of Anne's family, except her father Otto, lost their lives in different concentration camps across Europe, a fate shared by many Jewish families during that dark time. After the war ended, Otto went back to the place where they had hidden for 2 years. It was there that he discovered Anne's diary, which left a profound impression on him. Knowing Anne's dream of becoming a writer and encouraged by friends, he decided to try and get it published. At first, it was called Het Achterhuis, the Secret Annex. However, when it was translated into English, it became known as The Diary of Annie Frank, a name that would go on to touch hearts worldwide. In 1947, Anne's diary was published with an initial print run of 3,000 copies. But its fate took a remarkable turn when a glowing article by Jan Romain appeared in the respected newspaper Het Parool. This article made Anne's diary incredibly popular, and it was translated into 60 different languages. People were captivated by Anne's writing and how she managed to express herself so well, even in the toughest of times. Her diary became a sensation, touching the hearts of readers all over the world. Her book has become an important reminder of how innocent people can suffer because of intolerance and persecution. In 1960, the place where Annie Frank's family hid was turned into the Annie Frank Museum. Every year, thousands of people visit this museum to learn about her story and the hardships she faced. After the Second World War, when the horrifying truth of Nazi concentration camps came to light, it was incredibly hard to grasp the full extent of the horrors. More than 6 million Jews lost their lives in the Holocaust, a number that's almost impossible to imagine. Annie Frank's diary became crucial because it provided a very personal connection to the people behind these staggering numbers. Anne's lively and relatable writing style made it easy for readers to understand her situation and feel for her. Her diary also shared experiences that all of us can relate to as human beings. Eleanor Roosevelt, a respected figure, once said about Annie Frank's diary, "It's one of the most thoughtful and moving accounts of war and its impact on people that I've ever read." The incredibly sad discovery of their hiding place near the end of the war made the loss of Annie Frank's life even more heartbreaking. She had so much potential, but her life was cut short before she could become an adult.